Thrive. We'll all stand to the pledge in a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. All county commissioners are here today. I was getting a little bit concerned. I walked in and only Lansing was here. And I thought, you know, that is a shame, because if you go to the city meetings and the school board meetings, there's nobody there. So I really appreciate.
I believe Tonganoxie's represented here every meeting.
Well, I know that, but there
Okay.
wasn't anybody in here.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
It was a lonely event walking in, not having anybody here. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. I turn it off in case I, reach a certain age, you talk to yourself. Okay, public comments. Does anybody have any comments they want to make? Okay, that concludes that portion. You want to be a part of the public? Nope.
Mr. Herring, no?
Next is administrative business.
I had a couple of items. First on the agenda is the discussion. The board has asked a couple of times about potential for joint meetings with the cities and the county. I have reached out to the city administrators or managers in those cities. 3 of them have gotten back and said they're interested. 2 have gotten back with some dates. The potential, I've put those out for you to review. As the other cities get back in touch with me, I'll let you know. But if you could review some of those dates and just let me know which ones wouldn't work for you or which ones would work for you, I'll kind of compile a list and then bring that back to the group.
I have a question on that, but I'll let either the other commissioners go first if they have some.
Yeah, just get some dates set and we'll see.
Well,
I'd just like to see a date set so we could.
Yeah, I'm just sort of curious. Leavenworth wants it done there.
We're having a meeting.
Yeah, we're having a meeting. I don't understand that, but maybe down deep I do, but I won't comment on it.
What they've asked is that for the better availability of their board, that we could meet during one of their normal meeting times. That way they've already got it scheduled. That's what they've asked. So
What do we do with Lansing?
Lansing, I haven't heard back from Lansing yet.
But what I'm saying is.
Baser asked the same asked for the same thing, if we could meet down there at their meeting, because again, their board is already scheduled to be there. And
But I thought these meetings were all going to be at one time. In other words, Lansing, Baser, Tonganoxie, Easton, and Linwood, and Leavenworth, and the county would be in one room. We're going to meet with Leavenworth, and then we're going to meet with Lansing.
Okay, well, that's not how I understood it. I just understood that you wanted to meet with each city. I didn't understand that you wanted to do a joint meeting. If you want to do a joint meeting with all of them, I think we would have to schedule that separate in probably a different
meeting
event.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And all of them at the same time. I think when you have that many governing bodies together, I think it's going to be difficult to get accomplished much, because each city is going to have a separate agenda that they want to talk to the county about.
I can see that, but I thought it was going to be joint with everybody, because now it becomes like executive sessions.
Well, they would still be public meetings.
Well, yeah, I understand that. So I don't know. What's your thought, Douglas?
It'd be nice to just have everybody.
So one meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
We can try it. If it doesn't work, we can break it out.
Misunderstanding on my part. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think it was a misunderstanding.
I will definitely, then I will get some with the city administrators, get some dates that maybe would work for everybody, and we'll find a location. Because I think if we have all those boards, we wouldn't even have room in this. It wasn't your fault. It was my fault for not being more clear. I'm very sorry. I will get that clarified with each of them. And
Nice that positiveness.
That was. I appreciate that.
I had that from 2 people.
Thank you. The other thing I just wanted to bring up, and Mr. Joseph's here to discuss it. We have been working, and I've mentioned a couple times, we've been working with the cities on their urban growth area.
Right.
And how they could control that for planning, zoning, building codes and such. We're getting really close to having an agreement that we want to present to you for consideration, and that the city of Lansing is ready to move forward. And so I just want to bring it up, let Mr. Joseph kind of just touch on a few high points real quick, because I think it applies to you before they start discussing it with their board.
Right.
So,
And you gave us a little memo, and I
Correct.
think it was good. I read that, and that's good.
Good morning, Commissioners. Currently, we're working with the City of Lansing on having them control some of the urban growth boundary areas. Right now, they are trying to figure out which area they would like to control. So we're working on an agreement right now. So the city wants to go forward. So once we finalize on it, we'll bring it back to the commission.
What was about the septic? Why are we keeping
Well,
they don't have staff for that?
Yeah, they don't have the staff to inspect the septic systems. In some cases, say somebody wants to build a house, then they could approve a septic system, and they could call us, and we would go there and inspect it.
Okay. So we continue to get that blame on.
well, we already do that for,
Yeah,
for cities, even in their city
Okay,
limits. There are some of them, so they can call us and ask us to do
Very good.
residential inspections, and we would do that than what we're doing.
That's
for
a
them.
shared agreement like we've talked about before. I like it.
So this would be, with this agreement, this is, what we're hoping to get is a template for an agreement that if any of the other cities wanted to. And I believe that Baser has expressed interest, but they haven't, they're not at the level where Lansing has. So hopefully if we can get Lansing to get an agreement, the other cities can see what it might look like
Oh,
and
good.
be more willing to come in. So we're
Yeah, on
pretty
the-
excited about it.
On the septic systems, this would allow us to get the fee for that, so there is no cost to the taxpayer.
Okay, very good. Oh, I didn't see you back here, Joe. I'm sorry. It always makes me feel so positive when I see you.
Thank you. Joe Herring, Sorang, 315 North Fifth Street. We've heard talk about this urban growth and taking over. My question before they bring it to the board, are the property owners, the actual properties within that growth, are they going to be notified personally that they are now going to be under new control potentially? Or will it just be a board hearing and publication via the web?
Well, what is it, 10, 15, 20,000 letters we need to send out?
It would be handled with, there would actually be several public hearings that would be required to be held, both in the Planning and
Yes.
Zoning Commissions and at the city level.
Yeah.
They would have to have an ordinance adopted, which requires public hearing, and so that would be the notification process. And then, of
That was
course,
my concern, that it
discussion
wasn't just a
here.
resolution coming here
Yeah.
and then.
Which is also why we've been discussing it multiple times, just so people are aware it's not something new. We've been discussing it for a while, and it will be even once the agreement is the draft agreement has got the language that everybody's comfortable with, it's still probably 60 to 90 days from there before it could even be
So the
implemented.
public hearings will start once you guys get your agreement with the city kind of
ironed out.
ironed
yeah.
out, and then you
Because
start having the public hearing.
It will require a resolution by the board here and an ordinance by their board, plus it will require their planning and zoning staff.
Now,
Okay.
to take his question a little further, will there be planning board hearings?
Yes.
Or will there be an announcement in the paper, we're going to meet at the Royal Stadium? Everybody's invited to come.
It'll go to both Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission, and also the City Planning Commission.
But there won't be a special meeting just to sit down.
No, sir. It'll be, we'll send out notifications about that meeting
Right.
prior to.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, would this kind of lead into the county and the cities all having MOUs on everything, whether it be who takes care of what road and or the control they have within their comprehensive plan? And
Correct.
all that?
I think this is a start. I mean, this is a good
first step.
approach for them, but that's something we've definitely bring up.
Well, it'd be nice to have an MOU with every city or an interlocal agreement of some sort that we all know what we're doing.
Who maintains which roads.
Yeah,
And this could be progressive, you know, we
Right.
might not just jump into roads because, oh my God, I've got,
well, but I mean, if the
Yeah.
city has a comprehensive plan that they have a 5-year plan that this is what we're gonna do in 5 years, they ought to be able to control that.
yes, I agree.
Right.
So,
I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm just saying
Right.
that
Okay.
they may not
Well-
be ready, other than codes and zones,
right.
to take on roads. They've done that with Eisenhower. So,
Just part of having a plan.
that's right. We need the plan. Okay, let's see, what is next on here? That takes care of the administrative business, unless there's something else from the,
That was it from staff.
next is the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes. You weren't here last week, and you were greatly missed, believe it or not.
Greatly missed.
Greatly missed, yeah. There was one thing that I want to remind everybody, that a lady came in and requested funds, and we didn't require matching funds. No.
I thought we were going to.
Well, yeah, but I tried to enter it in later, but it became, we couldn't void that because there's only one vote. It's been voted on, so I just wanted to recommend that this year, anybody that comes in should not have to give matching grant. We didn't do it for one, we shouldn't do it for any of them.
Right.
And maybe that ought to be built into policy. My recommendation is on future grants this year that nobody has to do matching funds. If one doesn't do it, none should have to do it. Now, maybe we should set policy for future years. That'd be up to future boards, should there be a matching grant. But we gave 6,000 South. I'm still thinking about Linwood down there. They have a community center. Hopefully they come in and request something. Easton, hopefully they come in. And then the other communities, they seem to know about grants, so, and I just noticed in the city of Leavenworth, there's a grant. Just reading through the bulletin that they pass out. They have a fund, the Visitors Bureau, and they give out grants. So that's just my suggestion, that any comes in, at least while my time is here, and we need to build it into maybe the budget, that there will be a
We can't. Why couldn't we start now and say, from this point forward, you have to have matching grants? Because we couldn't do it at the time because of the voting situation. Why can't we start now and go forward? I mean, it's not like we're taking advantage of all the people. It's just,
Well, it is sort of taking advantage, because some of these museums and some of these organizations put in a lot of time
I know they do.
with no pay.
Right.
So-
Zero pay.
Yeah.
But Mr. Chairman, wasn't on the 2019 budget, weren't we going to have these organizations come in and give us
And
an
budget.
amount that they think they need that year for 2019, at budget time?
Yeah.
And then we can adopt a policy then, can't we,
Okay.
for 19?
Yeah.
I can prepare a policy that require matching funds for anything we would grant to an outside agency, require matching funds. If there's you guys have an idea of what percentage you'd like to see for matching funds, 80/20, 50/50?
Well, I just think that they need to have some, as Louis said many times, some skin in this game. And I do. I think
Yep.
they need to have, they can raise funds, I'm sure. or do raise funds.
Yep, they do.
And I have,
So we do that when they come in. We still have money still have money available now though.
Mhm.
yes,
Because we just gave,
44,000.
yeah, we just gave away 6,000.
Yeah, so we have 44,000
Yeah.
left because we had a $50,000.
Yep.
You do have 2 requests that will be coming forward in the next month. Requests, we did receive 3, so you will have 3 requests coming in next.
Will that eat up the 50,000 or the 44,000?
It will exceed $44,000 if you add all 3 of them.
So how do we do that? Do we first come, first serve?
Discretion of this board.
Well, one thing we could do is set the cutoff date. And we can look at it at the time, if there's 3, 4, 5.
Right.
So I would prefer to do it that way. That's all right with the rest of the commission.
Yes.
And the administrator, it's all right with you? Well, you set a cutoff date.
Make sure that you have all 3 of those applications.
Well, it could be 5 or 6.
So, well, what would you like to use for a cutoff date? Because you already have, they're already here. The applications are here. They're just trying to get on their schedule when they can come before the board to ask for them. So you already have enough that you would exceed the funds that are available. If you'd like to put a cutoff date, I might suggest that May 1st be the cutoff.
May 1st, May Day.
And these are case-by-case basis, aren't they? I mean, if
Yeah.
a organization's,
Yeah, but if you come in and you want 40,000 and then he wants,
yeah, but
10.
what have they gotten in the past?
yeah,
I mean, it ought to be taken into consideration. What have they gotten in the past and an organization that's never requested funds?
that's
I
true.
mean, that all ought to be taken in consideration, I think.
May 1st cutoff date.
You ready for you have any questions?
Yeah, there was one more here on Port Authority. Do we have a new agreement drawn up yet?
Mr. Chairman, I'm working on that. It's going to take a little bit of time. I could possibly have it by the end of next week.
Okay. Just it was in the minutes. Believe it or not, I read the minutes.
Mhm.
There was one question on, I always like bringing this up. This is on the, approve the check register, just for people to know what we do. Now, one city does it a little different. They have an amount at the end, and that's basically all that's shown to the people. So I'll read that one first. These checks are an amount of $466,936.43. So that's what this comes to. You don't have to look it up, but on page 2, it says rock again, and that's $16,000. On page 3, chemicals, and that's for, I think that's for the weed department.
Mhm.
That was $67,000.
I started to say it was for Fran's department.
But
Yeah.
For Fran.
the county sells them chemicals
Yeah,
at 25 or 75% of what they cost.
yes,
So we subsidize it at 25%.
that's true. Ham quarries again, $22,800 on page 4. Rock salt, $24,900. Page 6, $33,000. That was for the Riverside Resources. We give them some funds. $20,000 for St. Vincent Clinic. So I'd just like to pass out those figures so people know what we're spending money on. It's very good, I think. Check register, approve the OCBs and the agenda. Anybody have any situations with next week's agenda?
Are you ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second that, Bob, or I will?
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. How do you vote, Douglas?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Okay, the next is Mark Lowry on, it said in here, Mark, it said authorizing 3 amendments. I only found 2.
The third amendment is actually removing 3 reference pages that were a part of the appendix at the,
Oh, okay.
at the back of the, I think it's actually 4 pages because 1 page was blank, so just want to make sure that
Okay.
those are not documents that are used anymore. They were in the old system, so
I was up all night trying to
trying to figure out
find
where that third one was. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Okay, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Personnel manual. It was a mix of the old personnel manual and some of the new information that the policy committee that reviewed and recommended. There were 2 items in there that I guess after application, so we have a couple of people who this has applied to, we see a need to amend the policy, and it's on the discretionary days that are allowed each year. The way the old policy was written, the employees were awarded those, and if they left, they were paid out. So what we're recommending is that we put a time limit on there, so they have to be here at least 90 days before they receive those, because we do have some employees who come on board and leave within a short time frame, some as few as 2 to 3 days. And the way the policy was written previously, it allowed that those employees would actually be paid for those discretionary days, even though they'd only been with the county for a few days. So we're asking for you to amend that to require a 90-day time frame before those discretionary days would be applied. And then, like I said, mentioned, the third amendment to the policy. The first 2 are both related to that. The last one is just removing some pages for a procedure that we don't use anymore.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on it?
I think that's 90 days is a good fit.
Sound good? Okay. You need just a
We
motion?
should have a motion.
Yeah, it's a board order of
They're back here, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah. And that will be board order number 2. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we amend the policies as presented by Mr. Lawfrey. And we need a motion to
Just
adopt
a motion
board
to
order,
approve Board order 2019-2, yes, please.
and that we make, part of my motion would be to adopt board order 2019-2, 2018-2.
Oh, I'm
Excuse me.
I got excited there.
Yeah.
I'm reading from the.
We were talking about the
Go.
2019
Think you're
budget.
getting out of the job?
Yeah,
Let me go.
Yeah.
my mistake.
I second that motion. 2019?
2018-2.
I said it.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. How do you vote, Robert?
Aye.
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 Very good. Next on, very important day. Did you know he was our first public works director in my time?
You know he hired me?
God, I knew we shouldn't have hired him. That's again.
No, that's who hired me.
No, it's good
Al
man.
Hedrick.
He was a good man.
Yep.
And that's Jeff Joseph, it says. You want an approval of,
Well, I think it's Stephanie. She usually runs the show.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
morning?
So, we're here to talk about the annual Mel Hedrick's Fishing Derby. We would like to hold it this year on June 23rd at Happy Hollow Lake. We've held it at Happy Hollow the past several years, and it's just a beautiful venue for the kids to gather around and fish. They always catch fish. It's really easy access, and it's turned into a really large event. Last year, we had over 80 kids registered, and that's not including their families that came with them. So it's turned into a really nice thing that the county does for the community.
I have two questions.
Okay?
Different venue, has somebody brought up ever a different venue?
We've
Yep.
had it at several different places.
I know it was out,
Landboard.
At Lamborn Farms, and then we've had it at the Council on Aging as
yeah,
well.
yeah, okay. Because it seemed like a nice setting. I wrote down here, why don't we do this for the seniors? You know, there's some seniors that like to fish. But I think it's a great idea. You want a motion on that also? Do you need that, or just an agreement, or?
I believe they ask for your authority each year, so we would appreciate a motion to proceed.
Anybody have any problems with
No, I
authority?
went last year and it was very crowded.
You've got authority.
All right, thank you.
Very good.
I'll go this year.
Take a fishing pole?
No, I did not.
Don't we need a motion on that?
It's not absolutely necessary, but I think it might be
Appropriate.
worth putting
Yeah, I
in.
think it'd be appropriate.
Would you like to do a motion?
I'd like to do a motion that we approve the Mel Hedrick Fishing Derby.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. How do you vote?
Aye.
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 Very good.
Make it official.
Yeah, somebody might not show up. Okay, the next is case number DEV 18-32, a temporary special use permit for an ALS time trial, planning and zoning. Recommends.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV 18032, temporary special use permit for Bruce Edwards and Glenda Taylor Memorial Time Trial. This is an annual bicycling event benefiting the ALS Stream Fund and the Glenda Taylor KCA Fund that will be held on county roads on Saturday, April 21st, 2018, between 7:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. The course is 6.2 miles out and back on Round Prairie Road. Off-street parking will be available at 34175 Round Prairie Drive. The applicant has provided proof of insurance and will have 3 sheriff's deputies on the course from 8:45 a.m. to 12 p.m. The applicant is requesting that the $100 fee be waived. The Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval of case number DEV 18032, subject to conditions. The applicant is present to answer any questions you may have, as are we.
Good morning, I'm Dave Romish. Thank you for letting me attend.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Can you wait a minute? And that have to, won't he fall into the public hearing portion? Do you have any questions on the ALS?
No, sir. Don't we do this every year?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody want to discuss in favor of it? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I'm Dave Romish. I'm working with Roger Harrison this year to promote the race. So since he's decided to retire for promoting, it's such a great location, safe course, nice support from the county sheriffs. I'd like to continue the event with his assistance this year, then I'll be doing it from this point forward as well then.
Okay, very good. Anybody else have a favorable conversation on this? Anybody against it? And staff is okay with it? Mark, you have no problems?
No, I don't think we've had
Okay.
any issues in the past. We do recommend approval.
I'll close the public hearing then. And we got to have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the
Well,
Commissioners, they are requesting the $100 fee waiver, but last 2 times we did not approve that, so.
We didn't
We
or
have
did not?
The last two applications this year have asked for that waiver, and this
We
board has
denied
not.
them.
And we've denied it.
Correct.
Yep.
Then we need to do that also, I'd say.
I prefer that.
Yeah, you are, like I said, you're gonna have 3 deputies being paid overtime.
Yes.
And I'm sure Public Works has went out and swept the roads. So,
So I'll wait for a motion.
So I'll make a motion that we, and this, the waiver of the $100 is already part of the application.
Correct. They were asking for it, so that,
So
that's up to the
we
commission.
would have to make a motion to approve this, excluding the $100 application.
The waiver of the $100
Waiver.
application.
You want to second that?
what was that? Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. Then move to second. How you vote?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is request for the DEV-18-035 County Road 1 moratorium extension.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a request to extend the County Road 1 moratorium until such time as our land use study has been completed. We are working on that right now. Our first public meeting will be on May 2nd. So we're trying to notify all the folks involved in it. So, you know, since 2007, this has been extended several times. I think our recommendation is that we extend it one more time until the land use study has been completed.
Last time we were discussing this, you did ask if we could reach out to the city of Tonganoxie for input. We did receive a response from their city administrator that he did not have time to, they don't have a meeting between the last time we discussed this and reached out to him and now. So he was just making a statement that he wouldn't have a chance to talk to his board before we met today. So, and I believe he is here, so if you want to discuss it with him, it might be appropriate that you delay any action on this until he has an opportunity to meet with his board to come back with more input, unless he had something else to say today. Is that appropriate?
Good morning, Commissioners. George Brackvich, City of Tonganoxie, 526 East 4th Street. Thanks, Mr. Lawfrey. That's it. You know, I appreciate Mr. Joseph reached out last week to give us a heads up that this would be appearing today. We are in between city council meetings. However, we do have one for Monday night, the 16th. And if you are willing, we'd like to place that on the agenda as a topic for a venue where we can have an appropriate discussion about it and then report back to staff or even this body the following morning on Tuesday. So if you'd consider maybe tabling it just for a week so we can have the discussion.
So it'd give us that Tuesday, we can make a...
Yeah, like I said, I would either be able to give your staff an update following the meeting, or if you prefer, I could come here the next morning as well to give you the input. Our folks have been provided the information, we just haven't had an appropriate venue for a discussion on it yet.
But it's a nice drive, you know.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Mark. George. You know, does anybody else have any comments? And we're going to table it, but I did want to make some comments so staff would be able
I
to...
just wish we'd have done the land use study years ago instead of having a moratorium that's lasted over 11 years.
Yep,
You know.
but we did, and we're progressing rapidly, and you know, I'm glad you mentioned that. It says right here, one more time, Chairman looks to improve county image. No, that wasn't me. This was April the 4th, 2017. But that's a very good article. I'm getting rid of those things, and I'll give that to the chairman at that time, and he can read what he was wanting to do, and it has to be very accurate because it was in the Leavenworth Times, and John is accurate. Do you have any questions on that, Bob?
No.
My question was, and it's probably gonna be, and I don't know if I'll change my mind, we need to get on down the road. And we can't meet because they gotta, we can't discuss because they gotta meet. And that's part of bureaucracy. You got all these people meeting at different times, and there's nothing wrong with that because he does have to meet with his board. He can't make that decision unless he is, George has been granted the privilege of making every decision for the council, and I don't think they've done that. I know a few of them on there. I don't see how they would do that. But as I look at the map, I think that's interesting because there's quite a bit of property within that area. And I put a question mark on the rectangular one almost in the center, and I don't know what that is. Who owns that?
That's the city owns it. It's the industrial park.
It's the city of Tonganoxie's industrial.
They annexed it, so it's part of the city.
That's the
yes.
industrial park, okay.
The gray is the city limits of the
Yeah, okay.
city of Tonganoxie.
But I have down, whereas the resolution, sufficient sewer, that's part of our overall plan.
Right.
Public water, stormwater, that's an interesting one. That's a big expense. Fire protection, infrastructure, and last one was down at the bottom, whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Leavenworth County does not wish to impede any landowner's reasonable exercise of their property rights for longer than necessary. How long has this been going on?
11 years.
It's 2007.
Yeah, 07. That's probably it's like an abuse of the quick trial that we're supposed to do in this country. So I don't have a problem with, we don't need a motion.
No, not if we're going to table it.
Yeah.
Well, it would be appropriate to table it to a date certain of next week, or just to table it and we'll put it back on the agenda next week.
We'll table it till next
meeting.
Tuesday, which would be the 17th.
Yes.
And did you say you want a motion on that?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we table the County Road 1 moratorium till April 17th.
Second.
And moved and seconded. How you vote?
Aye.
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 Very good. What else is on here?
Public Works.
Moratorium open. Oh, we're supposed to open. Well, we may table it, so we don't have to open it.
Table.
God, I thought I was in violation.
Mhm.
Now, the next is work session, but there's a presentation before that I would like to do. Do we need to do something on the Stonehaven Farm, or is that just an
That's just an
information?
information
That's
thing.
just information.
Okay, very good. I got a lot of informational
I
stuff.
will probably attend that at Topeka.
And if you'll pass that to Mark, I appreciate that. That was at the building committee meeting. But I have, ooh, I got to look on the screen.
At your own private screen.
Well, own private screening, can't beat that. But I want to bring this up before we get ready to listen to this and adjourn. We have a bill from Anderson and Bird. Anderson Bird wants $13,455.20. I know Bob's got something to say on that.
Now, you don't know what I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna say it's a nice day,
Yeah.
and we missed the bird pound on Wednesday.
Are you ready for a motion, Chairman?
Yes, and then I will have a request also. Go
All
ahead.
right, I'll make a motion that we approve and pay the bill from Anderson and Bird of $13,455.20.
Would you like to second that for discussion?
For discussion.
Yes. That's a very positive move.
And what discussion are we gonna have? Whether to pay it or not to pay it?
That is it.
Yeah, well, I say not to pay it.
Okay, my discussion is, I'm going to vote yes on the bill, but I would like a private request, or ever what you can do, and there's something surely that can be done to the judge. Some kind of a legal, polite maneuver that says we need to bring this to an end. Now, is there not something that can be a letter sent to him that says, we would like for you to discontinue this on and on and on? He is not Jeff Sessions. And it's getting ridiculous how long this is going on. And I think all the information is there. Make the decision. So is there not some kind of a request, lightly, or what way?
Mr. Chairman, members of this commission, your legal counsel in this, it has approached the court to try to set up a hearing date for the motion on partial summary judgment. The other parties have until tomorrow, the end of tomorrow, to file responses. The court would then schedule that for hearing, and then subsequent to that, render a hearing or render a decision. I do appreciate the fact that everyone would like this to proceed quicker, but with the rights of the parties, there are necessary time elements that we can't avoid.
Well, let's look at all judicial operations, David. You got people on death row for 20 years. You got people, they just keep extending it. I had a good example. I got a speeding ticket over in Platinum City. Not a speeding ticket. I pulled out on the highway with weeds up there, were about 8 foot tall. Nobody could see as you turn off the 29. Young man coming along about 60 miles an hour, and we bumped, and he wanted to go on because he was going to school. And I said, you can't do it that way. We'll pull in here, call the highway patrol. We went in there, and I called the highway patrol, and this was many years ago, and he shows up and he says, well, you're going to have to go to, you caused the accident, you're going to have to go to jail. Pay your fine and you leave. I thought, well, that's okay. I said, I got about $20 on me, what's the fine going to be? He said, $100. He said, well, you have to go to jail to get somebody over. So, try to shorten this story, which is hard to do. I go home because I said, you know, my cousin told me this is the way it's handled in Clark County. And he said, who's your cousin? And I said who my cousin was. He said, oh, Rusty, yeah. Well, we'll let you by. You won't have to pay the fine. You have to come back and pay the fine. I came back to pay the fine. All the weeds had been mowed. The kid didn't show up for the accident filing. So the judge, the next brace judge, probably a good guy, extended the case. I said, well, that's great. I wasn't smart enough to know the next time for me to call and extend it, and the kid wouldn't have shown up again. So maybe the judge would have thrown it out because that's what the prosecutor recommended, throw the case out. So it can go on and on and on, and that's what needs to be ceased. And surely, you know, it's going to be a decision tomorrow. No, it won't be a decision tomorrow. He'll grant something, and he can cut that portion off. So we're now going to wait till tomorrow. I would like to see two of us agree to write a letter requesting that after tomorrow, all this legal maneuvering ceases so we can get to taking care of business. So if I could, and whether it's paying, I don't care, but it needs to cease.
I agree. I mean, we're up to $206,652.70.
I like you're keeping track of that.
I've been keeping track of that.
And you can put that nicely in the letter.
I don't think
Mr. Chairman, you have this matter scheduled for executive session next Tuesday. If I could offer a thought, you may want to just continue your proposal until after the discussion Tuesday on the 17th.
Okay? Does anybody have any feelings on it? The thought process?
I do. I have a comment I would like to make. I was missed last meeting, and I apologize for that, but I watched it on YouTube, and it was referenced that I attended the Mrs. Klasinski's deposition, and the reason I wanted to be in that, to listen to that deposition, is because I don't think our attorney is giving us enough information. I think he's withholding information, not giving us the right information, but yet he can give us all these bills that I have here, and $206,000 worth. So I think we need to get on him too.
Okay. You have anything you want to say?
And I
But
recommend.
it's legal for you to be there.
Right, it's legal. There was nothing illegal about it. I never spoke. They never asked me any questions. I've got 2 books in there where I was deposed, and I was there for 2 days. And I have 2 books in there where I was deposed. And
They're doing that for commissioners. Clyde was there for 2 days.
yeah. Clyde was there for 2 days?
That's what I heard, so, but that's beside the point. But it's legal for you to be there. I would like the letter prepared at that time. Because if we're not gonna get it to a conclusion, the judge needs to be asked. No, you can't tell him what to do, because nobody regulates unless they do something bad in office, and then they can be removed from their position. Same way with attorneys. So there's no controlling agent over it. So,
Mr. Chairman, again, I appreciate your concern about the time that this matter is taking, but communications to the court in this matter should come through your legal counsel, and the opposing parties should be apprised of that letter as well. And again, I would suggest that this matter be further discussed on the 17th.
okay, but I guess you can tell our attorney to have a letter. We'll pay for it. Now, we're gonna pay him $13,000.
Well,
and you can tell the opposing parties, we're gonna have a letter go to the judge, and we wanna get on down the road.
Well, your counsel has been asking for a hearing date. Again, it will be up to the court to review pleadings that have been filed and set a hearing date that there will be 4 attorneys involved, so they're going to have to schedule that.
You know, I'm getting tired of dancing with the law. We have let law go so far downhill that they are so controlling, and everybody has to be politically correct, that it's getting ridiculous. Constitution is simple. Declaration of Independence is simple. 10 Commandments, that's real simple. This is not simple. We've stifled our federal government, and now we're sort of stifling us. We're just able to go ahead and do some things where the federal government can't do it. So, I want to be prepared to ask the judge, after all this dissertation takes place tomorrow, and we have the meeting on Tuesday, that everybody knows we're going to have a letter going to the judge, and we get them all a copy of what the letter is going to be, so we can get down the road. We're getting ready to pave some roads, so let's get down the road. You know, and there's such an honor among the legal authorities. There's not that honor amongst airline pilots. You screw up and land on the wrong runway, we'll come down on you hard. But that doesn't happen in the law field unless you're defending somebody in a case on the way to Missouri and you end up messing around with the lady you're helping in court. So this, I think I've only got 20 years left. So I would like something to be prepared, because then it's going to take a week to prepare the letter, and then we meet on it, and then we have disagreements. Thank you. Want to move?
A vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay,
Thank you, Bob.
I didn't want to disappoint you.
Yeah, no, that was disappointment. Boy, I'm getting this feel that probably, you might get that along to our attorney. There's going to be a couple nays coming up in the future. I don't care, a couple nays coming up. If we don't get this judge to make a decision, then we won't have a lawyer, and it might go better. I don't know. Also, before we get on to that, everybody here get the Kansas City Star?
Yes, sir. I read the article.
Wasn't that a nice article? That was on Randy Leach. I just read that and I said, oh, gosh, that is nice. Did you get that?
No.
Yeah, you can take it home. I've already read it. I thought that was just the things that they pointed out, because my farm,
It has been solved.
well, it really wasn't solved, but
Or
they found a car in
the
Stranger.
headlines say it has
Yeah,
been solved.
well, you know how headlines are.
Pontiac.
But it was interesting, you know, they found a car in Stranger Creek. Now, I had a quarter of a mile on my farm on Stranger Creek.
You did.
Yep. And it was amazing, you know, here we are down there swimming and, you know, catching catfish by hand. Oh, God, that's illegal. Very enjoyable, though. And you wouldn't think a car could sink in there and
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Good place for the fish to stay.
And then they found 2 cars down, one on a car, I think it was. Yeah, it's amazing. We're finding all these ships, carriers out in the Pacific. Just think, I bet you we could find 1,000 cars from Stranger down to New Orleans. 1,000 cars out there with bodies in them, probably. Okay, that's enough of that. Work session. Hi, Sarah. So nice to see you.
Good morning.
Before we start this
Yes.
work session, could I ask one question?
Yes.
I've been trying to get a hold of Sarah and can't seem to get a hold of her. And the gentleman behind you there has got a question on putting this abatement down on the roads, and how when it rains it gets all slushy and slimy, and it's just hard to drive on. Is there a certain amount you put on at a time? How come this is happening out here on, well, you go out Mount Olivet Road and you cross 207th Street, and I think it's still Mount Olivet Road then, and it's just a sloppy mess whenever it rains. Is it because there's too much of this abatement being put on, or is there something else causing this problem? Is there no gravel base underneath of it?
Are we talking about chemical application?
Yes.
I'll have to look into that. It could be a handful of things, whether it's the type of underlayment on the road. If it has more of that dusty, clayey type stuff, it's going to start to pump, they call it, where it just feels like that mushy, slimy type of
Yeah, that's what it is.
type of thing.
It's
But then
just
once it dries out, it turns really, really hard again. So it could be that, or it could be that maybe there was too much of the application put down, so that way when it gets wet, it soaks up that water in order to keep it really damp. That's part of that chemical application, is it just retains that humidity and moisture to keep the dust down. But we can look into it.
I asked several other neighbors out in that area about this. Not that I didn't trust what he was saying, I just wanted some other information. And they also said the same thing. They said whenever it rains very much, it just is just a sloppy, slimy mess.
Yeah, and we have a lot of that type of soil in the county, just in different places. I mean, we're dealing with that on 147th Street right now also, you know, just in the dirt that's there. It just really retains moisture and gets that pumping action or that soupy feeling underneath the tires. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
I want to pass this out before Sarah starts. This has to say roads. I need to walk anyway. Mike, John, need that. Let's see, I have 4 more here. You might take a look at this, pass it out to the community out there. Legal purposes. Sarah really wants this, I know. And I don't think my copy went up there. Did I give you one, Bob?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's all right. They went around an oil well.
That's just for
It's
future
a
planning.
tree with a horse, I believe. Correct? Did it go around a tree with a horse underneath it?
I think that's what it is. Looks like it. But, you know, we've done that.
That's a tree?
Okay,
Commissioner
Sarah.
Holland, if you hold it like this. Yeah, like this, it does look like an oil.
It looks like an oil rig.
But this way it's a tree and a horse.
Yep.
Okay.
It's like the woman that looks old one way and really young the other way. Those visual experiences.
So are you talking about me?
Okay. You'll pass that around, John. So, Sarah, you're on. Much you
Kind of
must.
saved by the bell, if you will.
And me.
Well, that's not you this time?
No.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting us put together this work session information packet. The packet was rather robust with a lot of different information in it, so we've made a presentation to make it easier to go through. So this is with regards to the gravel road dust control and some different opportunities that the county has. So this presentation request was due to a couple of things. So one was the elimination of the PRP program due to its minimal participation and requires additional right-of-way. Dust control to be maintained by Public Works. So a couple of things that we've been requested to do is put down chemical dust patches as well as chip and seal dust abatements. They're now included within our maintenance areas, and investigate a dust-free county program. So this would require no additional right-of-way and no roadway improvements. So the presentation outline, to give you an understanding of where all these parts and pieces will be discussed. So we'll go through the existing paving and maintenance program, the existing dust control methods. We'll move on to proposed dust abatement installations to include the guidelines, the opportunities, and the costs. Please note that all costs given in this presentation are in 2018 numbers. No inflation or any type of economic applications have been provided for numbers that are outside of 2018. And then draft resolution 2018-unknown for the gravel road dust control program that would repeal the 2012 dust control program and the PRP. So existing paving and maintenance programs. So in 2018, our current method of operations is to include 10.4 new miles of road. So we have 115.5 miles of maintenance scheduled. 90 of those are standard miles, 25.5 are catch-up miles we will be contracting. We got a little behind a couple years ago, so we've been trying to do some catch-up each year. 2.13 miles are maintenance extensions, so this is an opportunity that we'll discuss. And then 7.3 miles are in construction. Those are all contracted out. 2018 design preparation, so these are 18.2 shelf-ready miles. We have 9.9 miles in design and 8.3 miles of PRP. So what is important about understanding the design prep and shelf ready is that this is where we start to eliminate that lag time that a lot of people get very frustrated with transportation programs. So usually it takes about 3 years from inception of a transportation program to when we see construction. We know that's too long for our particular county. So Dave and I went through and addressed our standards. We reduced and made some appropriate standard revisions to make it easier to develop roads in our county, and we've been able to start to narrow that timeline from 3 years to approximately 18 months to 24 months. So the 2018 Hard Pave program, so we have developed these cyclical maps. So we have a cycle approach to maintenance, extension, and installation. So the most efficient way to start to move forward with paving every year, adding additional miles, is to do it during our maintenance cycle. So example, so the design and install of those 2018 to 2019 projects, the third layer would be installed between 2020 and 2021, and then they would be accepted into this particular maintenance cycle on cycle. So we don't have different areas, segments 2 or 3 miles here and there, multiple areas throughout the county that we have to hit within a cycle year. We want to try to stay as efficient as possible and stay within that region of the cycle. So our current maintenance cycles, we have 3 maintenance cycles. Our idea is to grow each maintenance cycle at the time of cycle for program efficiency. Currently, the method of operations is that 10 to 15 miles a year. So contract versus crew, our 90 miles is maxed out for each crew. So additional crews are anticipated by 2020, given our growth rate that we have currently. And then our cycle options are 10-year asphalts and 3-year chip and seal. So there are going to be some roads that naturally are in a different growth pattern where asphalt is going to make sense. And then they will start to become on a 10-year maintenance cycle instead of a 3-year chip and seal.
So we don't have to go back. When you say additional crews, are you talking about we have additional crews, or?
We would be proposing additional crews to be installed within our staff, our employment.
Contracting out, we wouldn't need additional crews.
Correct. So there is going to be a time period in between there where it's not going to make economical sense to have a crew with all the equipment versus contracting, but then we will hit a point where it'll be more advantageous to have a crew on staff as opposed to contracting it out. So our existing dust control methods. So first we have owner maintained. So our chemical dust patches, it's 1 application per year by the third party, 1 season maximum. Additionally, we have the chip and seal dust abatement. Currently in its form from 2012, it's a 2-phase installation. So the first year, the sub-base rock and 2 layers of chip and seal is put on. The next year is when the property owner is supposed to put on the 3rd layer, and then it becomes stable enough for multi-year maintenance. So the multi-year capabilities, though, are directly related to the traffic, the vehicle types, and the weather. As it is 4-inch of base, the intent was that these kind of would be hit-miss throughout the county, in the middle of gravel roads and things like that. So no salt and sand services would be on 4 inches. So existing public works maintained and installed hard pave. Currently, we're right-of-way, minimum of 6 to 8 inches of sub-base rock, and that they are connected to hard pave network. So addressing expectation. So our existing standards miss setting an expectation on how to manage each of these different items. They do not clearly define the county maintained eligibility. It's simply been something that's been an in-house understanding. If it's connected to a hard pave, it makes sense. However, there isn't anything that actually clearly defines that. And it's based on 60 feet or more of right-of-way. So these are the 3 things that we really needed to take a look at, given some of the requests and ideas that have been expressed. So from that, we've developed an installation guideline. So our first question is, what can we fit in existing right-of-way? You know, if we want to minimize how often we go out for right-of-way or rely on the condemnation and donation processes, what are we able to fit within the right-of-way? And then additionally, what services can we provide? So for some of these things, such as I mentioned, the 4 inches of base rock with dust patches and dust abatements that have been installed throughout the county, you're not going to get a full service snow and ice removal. You're going to get the blade only type of approach. However, that's not necessarily what people understand when they sometimes get these things. So looking at what we're able to fit within a 40, 60, and 80 foot of right-of-way, we've come up with how to do the dust abatement installations. So within a disconnected section, it's going to stay the same as what the 2012 intent was. It's going to be the 4 inches, it's going to be blade only, and it's going to be resident maintained. For the other areas that are connected to hard pave, regardless if it's 40, 60, or 80 foot of right-of-way, it would be eligible for county maintenance. Meaning that we would need to do the 6 inches of minimum base rock, depending upon the vehicular counts, in order to provide the services expected, which would include salt, sand, and blade. So within a 40-foot right-of-way, in order to go ahead and think about what all can we fit, so we have utilities, we have drainage, and then finally we have that surface that we drive on. So within a 40-foot right-of-way section, we'd be looking at 18 to 20 feet maximum of pavement width. In the 60-foot right-of-way section, we would go with the 20 to 22, and that is currently how we're managing a lot of these designs and design standards that we've revised. So that still falls into play with what we're currently doing and managing. And then within the 80-foot section or more, that's when you start to look at that 24 foot of pavement with potentially some shoulder capabilities for what we can fit. All of these dust abatement installation guides are based upon a 3-layer chip and seal approach. So the first year, the first two layers would go in. That third year is when that final layer would go in to stabilize the entire section. Our other item that we needed to address was driver notification. So driver expectation on a paved road is that it's a designed road. That they're able to take that without minimal changes in their speeds, within their expectations. You know, they're not looking for a curve to feel tight if it's on a paved road. So signage is how that's addressed, and then what driver notification is necessary for our particular program. So we've developed this county-specific sign. It's a dust abatement roadway drive with care sign that would be placed at the intersections as you enter onto dust abatement installation roadways, and then they would be at a minimum of 1 mile installed along the roads. So along with anything that we would have to sign for tight curves or hill blocks view, all those types of signs that allow drivers to change their expectation and be prepared, this sign would also be included. So addressing the demands. So currently we have the maintenance, we have the resident participation, and we have a dust-free county programming. So these are the 3 areas that we've looked into for installation opportunities. So with the county maintenance cycle, we're currently planning on implementing that in the 2018 cycle year, as mentioned, 3.12 miles. So these are extending existing hard paved during maintenance. They're small extensions, less than 1 mile, and the intent is to connect existing hard paves that may just have a small segment that didn't get installed at any given time. So these would be financed through the county budget process. The pricing outline that we've provided is based upon that 6 inches of compacted AB3. So why the 6 inches is that's because a very, very large majority of our roads are in that 300 vehicle count range. Very few are above that to require the 8 inches, so we felt this is a good representation of some costs for discussions. How we've laid this out is in that 18, 20, and 22 foot driving surface. Additionally, it's materials and then maintenance services. So those maintenance services are basically our county county costs. So those are what we would consider for our mobilization, our traffic control labor and equipment. So that's our flaggers, that's our equipment use hours, that's our crews, hourly rates, all combined in there with what we have been historically seeing us take a mile of work to do. So with those, that populates into what our total per mile cost it would be realized by the county and then placed into per lineal feet. Our second area of opportunity is the resident participation, so the dust abatement program. The resident would be responsible for the payment of the minimum installation regardless of the location and type. So one thing that was requested a couple weeks ago was to make sure that the resident isn't seeing an increase participation cost. So, you know, if it costs us approximately $70,000 per mile now, we're not going to all of a sudden bump this up and say, oh, it's going to cost you $100,000 because of a new program. So this is basically what this slide is discussing. Regardless of where it's at, whether it's the 4 inches of disconnected segment or whether it's a county maintained segment where then we install 6 inches of base rock there, this outline discusses what it would cost to the resident and then what would be the county participation to ensure that the installation is there. So from here you can see that the disconnected segment would be approximately $20,000. The 40, 60, and 80 foot segments, their cost differentials are also located there for the required county budgets per mile. You'll see that the actual versus the 2019 form for the resident paid per lineal foot, we have adjusted it up to a rounded value, and I'll explain kind of why that is as well. So our proposal is that this form be open from March to February of the following year. So this way it gives people a full year to take consideration of how they want to manage their dust control or dust abatement. You know, they may decide to do chemical one year and then turns out they prefer not to, and then later on that summer season they want to just go ahead and get on the roll for dust abatement installation. This allows a full year time frame to get the residents to think about it, to go in and provide payment, as well as work with the clerk for any of her available policies on how they're going to manage some of those payments over 5 years. So being that it'd be open for a year and that this would potentially go out to bid, or we would piggyback off of available bids within the county, then that rounded number allows us to kind of know if it's going to be up or down from the oil costs, because we typically change those values every year. So that's why you see a little bit of a rounded number. Additionally, we've requested to take out the mobilization. So you won't see any mobilization plus a lineal foot in any of our proposals. It's just the lineal foot. Based upon the calculations from 2012, the 800 mobilization was directly related to approximately 660 foot of a maximum consideration for a dust abatement patch, which makes sense because they anticipated these just being kind of in front of people's homes. However, when you take that number over a mile, it gets to be a little expensive, so that's where we're meeting it kind of halfway. Finally, our third option for an opportunity to install dust abatement is through the investigation of a dust-free county program. So what we've done over the past couple weeks is discussed dust-free county installation with a handful of different communities around us, to include Wyandotte County, Miami County, and Platte County. So we're using a lot of their lessons learned. Some of these programs have been in place longer than anyone can ever actually find any information for, such as over in Wyandotte County. Some are very new, and they're doing more of a heavy maintenance approach, like down in Miami County, and then others were kind of a balance of in between, and that was over in Platte County. So we're taking a lot of the lessons learned from both Kansas and Missouri in this presentation. Additionally, being aware of the Kansas state statutes and the duties of a professional engineer as it pertains to public works was under consideration. We discussed a handful of different things with Mr. Van Paris in preparation of this, and we're really taking a lead on how Platte County managed a lot of those. We do know that Missouri has different statutes than Kansas, so there is some things there, but the historical information that is included in your packet we feel is a good representation of what we would need to be prepared for. And then finally, the program layout. So what we're going to discuss is the program setup. There's a specific setup that we recommend, a program process, and program costs. So a programming approach. So one thing that is very difficult within a transportation program is finding that economy of scale. Economy of scale is really difficult in roadway construction. It's probably one of the few things in the world that doesn't necessarily have a strong economy of scale. However, we've been able to figure out where that actually starts to hit. And it is approximately 25 miles or more. So anything less than 25 miles, we start to incur additional costs because it's not a large enough program. Anything more than 25 miles, then it starts to become such an incrementally small amount of additional savings that it's not really realized, if that makes sense. So all of this will be based upon assuming a 25-mile segment, each grouping, a year award type of a thing. So first, that initial setup cost that I alluded to. So it's approximately $20,000, and why this is important is because it templatizes the program. So when you templatize a program, you create an efficiency and a familiarity that you capitalize on, that you leverage. So this is everything from the way that the bid documents are laid out to the way that the quantities are stated, as well as the way that the contract forms and specification books are presented. So that's where that particular item, you're not reinventing the wheel at each time, and everybody becomes familiar, be it your review and bid document creators, as well as those who are going to be installing. So assuming a 25-mile award, so contract documents would be about $20,000 per mile. The importance of contract documents is that this is where the information gathering, such as the survey and vertical alignment, GIS for aerials and horizontal alignment, create the base for that document. That document allows your contractors to know where they're working, how they're working, as well as provides a layer of protection against our duties through the state statutes, as well as the professional engineers, that we have reviewed a public facility for its safety, acknowledged any deficiencies, addressed them where possible in the most efficient way and most economical way. So the deficiency review, that's where we know where to sign things, what speed limit it needs to be, where signs such as that, hill blocks view, driveway ahead, anything that we can do to mitigate incident points. If you can save one life on a road because you signed it correctly, they didn't take the curve at the 40 miles an hour, they slowed down to 25 because they were noticed, it's worth it. So that's where the contract document and deficiency reviews are all together. Construction is approximately $162,000 per mile, and that's where we've budgeted for this particular programming approach. So a couple things that are required acceptance if there is a dust-free county program implemented. So indemnification. Lots of indemnification clauses that would be reviewed, allowed, signed off on. So This is due to the fact that it's not a design. It will not meet any installation specifications outside of some very standard guidelines as discussed, and it will not meet transportation safety standards. We are going to manage the safety standards, but we will not necessarily claim that we're meeting them. So the contract documents, they're also a very minimalist approach to document deficiencies. It allows the contractor to bid and install quantities, and it provides a document for guidance of location. So that's what the contract documents provide. And then additionally, a very limited warranty. So when we're not installing per a design or specifications, when we have unknowns of what type of subsoils that we're dealing with without geotech, you're going to have a very limited warranty option. So those are things that are going to be required acceptance of a particular program of this size and magnitude and scope. So program costs. So basically we're looking at 22 to 23 years at 25 miles a year. Now, obviously if we change how that mileage looks, this table would additionally change. So we're proposing to discuss the $5.5 million per year of a budget for this program because some years it's going to be more than that, other years it's going to be less. But overall it's going to average out to that 5.5 over the 22 to 23 years. How it's laid out is usually in those 3-year segments. You're going to have blocks. So initial setup and contract docs, your very first year, would be $520,000 approximately. Then your next 2 years are going to be construction, or sorry, 6 years, 8 years. I've been looking at this many times. Let's just follow the years on the thing. I'm going to stop talking about how many there actually are. So by 2025, that's when we're going to start to see our first round of maintenance. So that'll be our first round. So our first one was installed 3 years prior to that. This is our 4th year. We're going to start seeing 25 miles a year maintenance to be included along with our documents and our construction. That'll follow all the way through until 2037 when design and construction falls off and we simply get into a maintenance program. So that would be 152 miles of additional hard paved maintenance a year at approximately $3.8 million a year in today's particular dollars. That is within the range of national averages for a dust-free county maintenance per mile. And we feel pretty solid with considering these values for discussion. Finally, the dust abatement resolution that has been provided to you in draft form. These repeal the 2 items that we've been discussing. It repeals the gravel road dust control program of 2012. It also repeals 2017-23, which is the participatory road program. What's important about the dust abatement resolution as it stands and as it's drafted is it lays the framework for both county and resident installation options. So regardless if we stick with a maintenance extension option, if we do a smaller than 25, if we do a smaller program than the dust-free county programming of 25 miles a year, it lays the framework for allowing the pluses and the minuses. It addresses right-of-way and service expectation. It addresses county maintenance eligibility. And it updates the form to simplify the cost to the resident with no length limitations. So we still have a minimum of 300 feet, but there's no length limitations. So if people want to come in and pay for 2 miles and do that, they can. And it allows us to understand the limited construction disturbance because we're working within the the right-of-ways, and we're limiting where we're actually doing work in order to minimize some of the other permitting type of things that would need. So we'd be able to partner this with a specific best management practices, if you will, for stormwater pollution prevention. And so they would be able to work together as opposed to having to address each of these types of installation practices when they're installed. So that's the presentation of the full work session materials. The only thing that I didn't have up here for review is that historical information provided by Platte County, or it's by Platte County. So we've discussed the historical information with both Platte County and with BHC roads, and so we're comfortable pointing out some of the things that are required in order to manage some of those state statutes, but it provides us a very nice framework for what has been very successful in other areas. So, any questions, comments, directions?
Did staff have, did you have anything? Then we'll start with the one with the most roads.
Well, I think this does a really good job of addressing some of the concerns that the board has brought up over the past year or so. We have a policy and a program in place right now, the PRP program, that it doesn't work for a couple of reasons. One, because it's not funded each year. Two, the design standards that we have in place create put it at a level that it's fairly expensive, which is probably why it hasn't been funded every year that it's been on board. And two, there's really no requirement, or three, I guess that'd be three, right? There's really no requirement for actual participation other than giving up existing right-of-way, so that the people have an expectation of a free road being put in. With this program that is being proposed, the citizens have the ability to come in and put a roadway in at their cost, at a much reduced cost from where we were. The dust patch program has been there but hasn't been utilized. It gives that number up front, so they know right away what that cost is going to be. It allows the opportunity to spread that over a 5-year period. And then it also sets standards for when we do construction work, we have a program that we know this is how we're going to do it. This is the design standard. We're using some broad scope approach so that when these contractors come in, they know exactly the format they're going to use as they go forward. So I think it's a good program. I think it allows us to accomplish the most impact with the least funding.
Most roads, you're next.
Well, just cleaning ditches out and replacing culverts doesn't require a stormwater permit.
Correct. So when we're putting it under the maintenance type of things, that's great. Once you start getting into more than an acre of area that you're doing work in, then it does start to tip off some things. So when you're hitting a full length of roadway, handful of things we just got to make sure that we button up with and do right. And it's because it would be applicable to a program, it'd be very easy. So very similar to how transfer station has something because it's a program. You just take a look at it every year, make sure the program is working. It'd be very similar on a programming scale for that. Definitely not something to think is a big deal.
And you said you reached out to Wyandotte County.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Wyandotte County was one of the first just to go in there and hard surface all their roads. Everybody thought that was terrible, but they got the Legends, they got Cerner, they've got all kinds of good things because they don't have gravel roads.
Yeah, and so they were one of the key people that reminded, like basically said, the best thing that you've got to do is make sure that everyone knows what they're getting. If you only have 40 feet of right-of-way, you're not going to be able to get you know, a 25-foot road, because
Right.
where would you put stuff? So managing the expectation was definitely something from both Wyandotte County and Platte County. They said that would make your lives as commissioners, as well as our lives as Public Works, a lot easier to understand and digest.
I ran for this office for one reason, and it's roads. So we are going to do roads.
Okay. Doug, roads, very good.
That's right.
Do you have anything else?
No, sir. Just want to see something get started.
Bob, you got a one for roads. What, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I want to make probably a comment that's not.
It's a good comment. There you go.
It's a comment made by an individual that was sitting out here in the audience, and I was sitting in that chair. And one of the things that Sarah made a comment on, she said, this is going to be a dust-free county. Well, probably in here, I doubt you could get anybody that says they don't want a dust-free county. But when I was sitting right there, and we were trying to get this man to sign off on the PRP program, he said he moved out to the county because he wanted to live on a gravel road. He didn't want paved road. He didn't want all the facilities like you get in the city. He said, I didn't want that. That's why I moved out here. So you're forcing this down their throat and not giving the citizens a say in this.
I think he would have an opportunity to get his neighbors saying, leave our road alone. Don't ever touch our road.
And, you know, do I agree with him? Probably not. But he still has his right.
Absolutely. People have
And
property
I don't
rights.
want to take something and shove it down our citizens' throat, because this is what we want. This is not what maybe everybody wants.
To think about it as far as maintenance goes, it is, I encourage you to think of it more as a maintenance program. To move to hard pave, as far as getting on 3-year maintenance cycles or even more with 10 years, what we've seen a lot of the counties do additionally, you know, they may have started out as chip and seal, but then eventually they had enough base build up strength inherently from the multiple layers of chip and seal, they could go in and put the 2 inches of asphalt, and then it turns into more of a 10-year maintenance program, which looks and feels a lot different to the county, as well as the health benefits of dust-free areas.
How are you going to get all this easement, these easements from these people? Are you going to have to take it from them? So are we going to have a bunch of angry citizens out there because we're taking their easement, we're taking their ground?
So that was one of the things that you guys requested us to consider, because as an engineer, I will say that it was a tough stretch. You guys asked me to stretch my comfort and my design knowledge to fully understand what can we do with what we have.
That's right.
So what can we fit with what we've got? And so that's one thing with the design installation guide. It's the dust abatement installation guide. I'm trying to intentionally not use the word design, because again, we're not designing anything. I need to make sure that we understand that. But the dust abatement installation guide addresses what we can fit in 40 feet, what we can fit in 60, and what we can fit in 80. So if it's a 40-foot section, 40-foot right-of-way section, what we'll install will fit in 40 feet of right-of-way. There is no required right-of-way
We wouldn't
needed.
be going out for extra acquisition of right-of-way. What
There's
we
no
have is what we have.
acquisition proposed in this particular program, which is the biggest hurdle that you guys asked us to review is how do we do what we want, what's appropriate, you know, how do we become dust-free, how do we, you know, increase the health of mean, we've had lots of people come in here and talk about, the health of being dust-free. How can we move to an easier maintenance program, but stay within our boundaries? And so that's what we have proposed here with the dust abatement installation guide, is if it's a 40-foot right-of-way section, this is what can fit.
When you talk a 40-foot right-of-way section, is that the 40-foot, is that the road itself, or is that from?
That's easement to easement. So when we talk right-of-way, it's
from easement to easement.
Easement to easement, center line of the road. Yeah. So 20 feet on either side of the road, or 40-foot total.
20 foot on either side of the road?
Well, we always talk about the middle of the road.
So you're talking about the road, and then you're talking about another 20
so
foot?
Whenever we talk about the road, we talk about center line. So you've got the center line of the road.
Okay, center line.
And then you
That's
have
better.
20 feet
Then you
each
have
side.
20 feet on either side, which equals
Okay.
40-foot total. So in your packet, when you see the dust abatement installation guide, you'll see the right-of-way lines. They're dashed, and they're the total. So it'll be a 40-foot section, a 60-foot section, and an 80-foot section. 80 plus. So that is one area that you definitely requested Public Works Department take into consideration, and we've come back with the dust abatement installation guide. So anything that isn't a designed road, it would fall under this installation guide. Now, for designed roads, we have other standards, other criteria, other requirements.
When traffic counts reach a certain amount, we have
Correct.
to go to a designed road.
Yeah. So
Then those would require potentially additional right-of-way. But for
Right.
this program,
This-
this does not anticipate additional.
This would be the
additional
common
So we can think of this
program.
as step
This is
one,
minimal.
right? So step one is this approach. If we've got to do design because of traffic counts, because of incident rates, if we have to address something because of design, then it turns into a much different program, much more like what you guys
So
have
100
authorized for 147th, McIntyre, and so forth.
So 179th, what's the traffic count on that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
220 some, I think it was. But you designed that small section of road, 179th.
Correct. We didn't have this program available. Now, we minimized the design as much as we could, but we went out for right-of-way. We obtained right-of-way. It's a 60-foot section, so it'll be I believe, 22-foot wide
So
road.
what is the minimum traffic count that you have to have before you design it? Or the
I think
maximum?
that's the 400 is that level.
Well, dust abatement is available to traffic that's over 300. I mean, this program is available to any of those types of things. Now, when it comes to the traffic counts, that comes to the pavement. So take, for instance, let's talk about Fairmont Road, right? So Fairmont Road right now, it already went through some patching and things like that last year, but it's already getting pretty ground up, because the traffic counts might be getting to a point where we may want to start considering and investigating if a different type of surface would be most appropriate, right? I'm using this as an example. It's not real life at all, so please, those listening
Yeah,
in, we're not planning on doing anything on Fairmont Road.
I'm
So
going to go out there and start telling everybody we're going to concrete it.
please no. but my point is that there's going to be different things that trigger us to look at things, right? If we've got an intersection that has a high crash count, we're going to look at that intersection, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to look at it now and then think, well, what if there's incidents, right? So we've been asked to take on an approach to address the dust and take, for instance, the complaints that you've had with, why does my road get soupy? So that those kind of things would dissipate with a hard paved surface.
Right.
We'd get other types of complaints, but that particular complaint would end up
But yet,
going away.
you're still advocating the roads that can get soupy. You're still advocating using the
Chemical dust is always available. Because I mean, we're not going out in 1 year and doing 455 miles of road, right? There's going to have to be some options for people, and then there's probably going to be about 50 miles of road that's just not going to be eligible. They're dirt roads now. They're very low maintenance. They're not ones that we're going to necessarily go out and
What about
pave.
dead-end roads?
Dead-end roads may not always be dead ends. So I feel like that would be still applicable if it's a county-maintained road to continue to be whatever purpose is county maintained.
We're not asking you to approve every road in the county right now that we go do this. We want to put a
Well, that's what
program in
I'm
place
interested
so
in.
we can start addressing those roads.
If we're asked to approve these roads right now.
We're
No,
gonna take
this
the
is
roads
just a
that
program.
We will identify each year the roads that
Mm-hmm.
we believe are the most important to get done. So we'll prioritize the roads. We'll bring that to
So
the board.
Louis and I won't get to
The
approve
board
any
would,
roads.
the board would approve that. Now, on the outside of that, as if people lived on those roads and they wanted to come in and take advantage of this program and they weren't on our priority list, they could at their cost. And that's the difference too that we're trying to promote as well.
So there's 3 areas of opportunity discussed, right? So we anticipate all 3 of those areas to be balanced out in some form or another. But the point of what the presentation here is to talk about the programming side of just being prepared to make any decision that you may want to make in the future. So what this dust abatement installation guide and resolution with the updated form and process allow you to do is have that type of maneuverability to plan and decide how to program things out in the future.
So what if, hypothetically, you want to widen this road, so you need more easement. So you go in there and you say, we're going to have to take this easement. And so you're going to take this easement and you're going to say, this guy's got 2 miles of easement you're going to take, and he's got 2 miles of brand new fence. You're going to tear all that out, and he's got to put it back.
No, what you just described is a design build plan, and that would go through a totally different process. That would go through a process like how we're managing McIntyre and Eisenhower and 147th. Those are, that example is not applicable to what was presented.
Right. I think you're thinking of the old PRP program.
Right.
This
So
does not have
the
that.
old PRP program is going to be.
It'll be gone.
Yeah, there's no right-of-way donation in
Okay,
this
if the old
package.
PRP, I saw the first of this presentation, that with the old PRP program is gone.
Yes.
With the
Okay,
new, with the
so-
draft resolution, it would be
So nobody
repealed.
has a say in the PRP program?
We're gonna have to honor the roads that are already in it.
Are you talking about the roads that are already on, or what do you mean by nobody has
Well,
to say?
on one of these presentations, it said there was 8.3 miles of PRP program.
Right, so that's existing PRP program. They would still remain in the existing PRP program, but we would not, if we repeal it now, then there's no more PRPs that could be come in and added to the list. Yeah, as Commissioner Smith said, they would remain. They're currently meeting the
So
meeting the
you-
criteria of the program in place.
So to me, you're not, I don't know if you're not understanding or not caring. I would hope it is not understanding. But at the old PRP program, if somebody didn't want their road chip and sealed, but we go ahead and do it anyway,
What you have
No.
with the old PRP program is the ability, we had to go in and acquire a right-of-way
Right.
because we were doing a design road.
right.
But we wouldn't pay for the right-of-way, so they had to agree to donate it.
Right.
With this program, we won't need to acquire additional right-of-way, so there won't be that, them donating us and them having to move their fences. Can one person block 50 people who live on a road under this program? No, they wouldn't be able to, but they wouldn't have to pay for it either. It's a county program. So just like the people who live on 147th right now that we're doing the program on, we're doing the road project on. One person living along there could have blocked it if we had that attitude that one person can overrule the majority. But we came in and we did have to do eminent domain on some of those properties.
If it's
This
a
program
PRP
will not have it.
If it was a PRP program, they could have blocked it.
Right.
Yes.
So the
and
8
that-
point,
We won't need that any longer because we will not be acquiring additional right of way.
So one person's rights don't make any difference.
so the current PRP
The
program.
majority of the people's rights make the difference.
So but the PRP program is listed on here for 8.3. That's the amount of miles that's currently going through the program and that have met all of the criteria to date. So those are the mileage that we would anticipate that would still remain in the program. They haven't failed at any of their tasks that are required within the existing program as it stands. So, right away is being donated. Landowners are happy to participate, but if at any time one of those landowners don't participate, then they wouldn't be able to remain on the PRP as part of these 8.3 miles. Then, if this program, this particular dust abatement program is in place, they will have other options to move forward.
Well, say John Richmeyer lives out there, and he's the one that has 2 miles of road. And he has to give up 2 miles of his. But on the other side, we have kind of like we have numerous houses built, and they're on maybe 5 acres. So they have to give up 5 acres, or less than 5 acres. But on the other side of the road where John lives, he's got to give up 2 miles.
And if he chooses not to, then it wouldn't meet the PRP criteria, and then it would fall off of the PRP list. Then, if those homeowners still wanted to pave, they have an opportunity through the dust abatement program, if it's approved and put into action by you guys, that they could come in and pay for it and have it installed, but there wouldn't be any additional right-of-way because the dust abatement installation program requires no additional right-of-way. So right now we're in this area where we're going to have 2 programs that are existing, but if one item falls off, then there's something else that provides an opportunity for those same folks if they so choose. Just one program was implemented, and like Mark explained, it has this free concept to it, and the other program is a full participation.
I got about 4 items here.
Okay.
Paved roads provide a driver with the perception of adequate design. ASHTO. Aren't you happy with me? I got that right?
Yes, sir.
Ashlov.
I know you rarely hit all of the consonants, but this time you did. So high five.
Had a good weekend. But I wonder if ASHTO has. Where do we get the 55 and 65 on gravel roads? Where do we get those?
The 55 and 65 on gravel
I
roads?
don't think we do.
We don't. There is no
Well, I see people
guideline or
I see
anything.
people doing that.
Well, people can drive however they want, right? But it's posted for 30 or 35.
That's not part of ASHTO. Okay.
That's not part of ASHTO. No, that is.
Because signage doesn't mean diddly.
Well, so that's actually a very good point, because what we see is driver perception on that person who is traveling 55 miles an hour. They know the road. They've driven it. There's familiarity. They're comfortable, right? They know that they're going to have to slow down at some point to have either a stop area or a curve, because they're familiar with it.
Right.
So what signage purpose is not for the person who grew up on the road, but it's for that new driver. It's for that person who's traveling it for the first time. It's for maybe the distracted driver that's forgetting that the curve. Really, what those are intended for is the notification. So
But he isn't aware of that.
it's to change the current perception to what it needs to be for the moment that they're driving.
He isn't aware that I'm going out there to talk to Farmer Joe, and I've only been out there twice, but we're good friends, because I'm going to go mushroom hunting. So he isn't aware I'm coming out there.
No.
But
And you could surprise him by coming up over that hill and he's taking out the middle of the road. You can.
now, the other thing, and I just wrote it down as you were talking, pollution control and all that. I don't see any gravel road or any road that we would ever improve that would compare to I-70 for pollution. So I don't think that will ever be a problem, because I'll guarantee you I-70 has more pollution than Leavenworth County totally, and probably 4 or 5 other counties.
Which part of pollution are you speaking of?
Antifreeze, oil, deterioration of gravel, I don't know what.
Right. No, so
Smog.
SW3P has a wide variety of applications, right? So the area of application that we have to be concerned about is the disturbance of 1 acre or more at any given time.
Yeah.
And so that's really where our program would be in place. Again, we don't want to be hit with a fine like the city of Leavenworth was for not having something in place, because that's just a lot of money and then a lot of folks watching you. It's so much easier just to have, it's something that we're very familiar with as engineers. It's not something to necessarily be drawing any attention to type of a thing. It's like similar like a contract, right?
A lot of times the federal government doesn't allow us to think that I-70, I-80, I-35, I-29, you talk about pollution, well, now we're talking about an acre or 5 acres.
Well, they have major programs and their ditches are designed accordingly. So I think there's that. But what we're talking about is if we do have to do a large stretch of improvements, and it's at a specific slope, right? I'll want to have something in place that says I am telling my contractor to install a ditch check until the soil becomes stable, type of a thing, and then we're protected. But if I don't have that, and then something were to happen where we get a lot of soil runoff, then all of a sudden we could be getting fines for something that we didn't need to get fines for.
The point you're not getting.
Mm-hmm.
Rules are good, but we need to be passing up the line again through our congressmen that let's let the EPA do something intelligent instead of control this, control that, because you take all the other roads, they don't compare. But see, somebody set down a rule. Somebody came in, and I don't know, maybe they're just vegetarians. I don't know what their situation is. But they set down a rule that said 5 acres is way more important pollution-wise than 10,000 miles of I roads, I-70s, 80s, no. So it's easy to control somebody over 5 acres, but when Dwight David came in and did, the turnpike thing that he did, nobody talked about pollution, did they? And the pollution just rolls off those roads. But
I guarantee you, though, Commissioner Klemp, I promise that there are SW3P implemented and designed that they have to maintain, even as the road is
we're not going to resolve
done.
Pollution because
I know.
it's a falsity. Okay, cost of upkeep on gravel compared to hard surface. Have we come up with that yet?
Yes.
Okay. So but that's an important figure. Is it more to upkeep a hard surface road or a gravel road?
Gravel road
Yes.
by $2,000 per mile.
Okay. The other one was, why did I say limited grade? Oh, limited grading. You don't have to come in with the ditch cleaner. Did we find out on the ditch cleaner?
Yes, we did. We had one. There were complaints because it was
I was one of the complaints.
impacting property owners and also utilities lines that were in the right-of-way. So
chew 'em up.
It would get into
Oh,
the
man.
utilities, so that piece of equipment was
Yeah, but if we're
disposed
not
of.
changing, if we're not changing the right of way, and we're using that same ditch,
Well, but utilities located in our right-of-way, so, but the
yeah, but they're
machine
not
was.
located in the ditch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
can.
they are.
They can be.
In the drainage ditch?
Yes, sir, they are.
Oh, my God, wasn't
Anywhere in
that
the
great?
right-of-way.
Again,
But-
40
so
feet
the
of right
machine
of
is
way.
6 inches deep, they can be.
So you can't even grade them then?
No, we cut them all the time.
Yeah.
Right, you can't
You
perform
gotta be-
maintenance without getting into utilities.
Yeah, you have to locate. Anyways, that piece of equipment was surplus and disposed of.
Best piece of equipment was in the county. I saw.
Some people would say that, some.
Well, the
people
intelligence
wouldn't. It
people,
worked
I
good.
went down to Miami County and I watched that thing going down there, and it was probably going about 4 miles an hour, and just, now, you don't have to blow it out into the neighbor, but now the new ditcher blows it right alongside the uphill
Yeah.
of the,
Well, the one we had wasn't.
No, they could do both.
No, because I got the thing. I went down, researched it, and said, we need to buy that, and we bought it. And yeah, it was flinging out into the neighbor's fields. That's not good. I understand
Well, it
that.
would- And then it would also fling out into the
Rocks.
neighbors' yards, and there would be rocks and.
Yeah, but the new ones do not do that.
Yeah.
Well, that was 1982, Bob.
Yeah.
Not 82.
In the
it's
90s,
18.
no, we bought it in the 90s.
We buy in the
Second
90s?
time you were here.
Okay, second time. So that's 8 years, that's 26 years. There've been changes. I'll tell you what, there's probably an airplane I can't fly. You know that? I don't know
Probably
which
so.
one it would be, but to me, you can't go in there with a grader blade and doing ditches.
Can't?
It's totally ridiculous if you've got something that
Oh.
goes 5 times the speed. If it goes 5 times the speed and does a beautiful ditch, and you're gonna cut the lines, you're gonna cut them anyway. So, you have those people, I don't know how they got to where they put them in the ditch. Somebody,
Oh.
Well, there's not only lines, but there's water lines in ditches.
Mhm. We've cut them over the top of culverts before that weren't supposed to be there.
now,
But when you're talking about the stormwater permits that Sarah was referring to, when the county does a project or something that stirs more than an acre, but the common sense part is when the farmers on the other side of that ditch can disturb 100 acres and not have to have a permit,
well, yeah.
so.
So the system, but now, two other, the administrator talked on the one, you can have 5 years to pay. That was a good point. The other one was, we have all these, says no trucks. The trucks are out there. They're on the roads. Says no truck traffic, and yet, so the signs don't really do any good, but we have to have the signs. But we also have motorcyclists out there, and we don't have a sign that says, if you got less than 10 hours on a motorcycle, don't drive this road. Because you gotta know how to bend. That's an old court case that we lost. So, the thing I had drawn up, and you said, how much did you say, 5 million?
5.5.
5.5
5.5.
is what we're requesting to think about for budgeting purposes.
And we had come up with a thought of 8 million every,
You'd asked how much we could bond
Yeah.
on a ongoing basis for a project like this. And 8 million would be the maximum.
8
And
million.
that would last for 6 years. and then
For
we
6
would be
years.
Out of,
so every 6 years we could do 8 million.
then we would be out of funds. The 5.5 accomplishes the 25 miles.
Yeah.
Which is probably manageable.
And that's what we were looking at, 25
Anything more than
miles.
that becomes kind of.
So I would personally like to come up with something in our tenure that sets up a program to go ahead for 25 years.
I think this program is the start, and what it discusses. I think the challenge here is that it's a good program, and we can accomplish a lot with it. We'll get more miles done than we would under the old way for sure, probably 10 to 1 when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
We're currently
the-
operating with a 10 to 15 miles maximum a year.
The challenge is we still run out of, we still run out of funding before we get to the end of the 25 years. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just, the sales tax we have in place is 20 years and it's 1 year in already. It's already, a lot of it is already committed to other projects. So, I mean, we could get a good portion of it done, but we still, before we get to the end of the 500 miles, 450 some miles, we would run out of funding. So there would, as we get towards the end of it, we would address that, obviously.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'd like to get something going forward, and the reason I had this drawn up, and I know people don't really care to hear anything about anything sometimes. And I'll repeat, and I'll repeat, and I'll repeat. County passed a resolution. I thought it had some effect in life, but it's insignificant. But we find that true at the state level and federal level. It said 4 things: improvement of 147th, the improvement of McIntyre Road, improvement of Eisenhower Street, and the improvement of secondary road systems. Secondary road system. Didn't say anything about anything else. So we adopted that. That was signed by Holland, Graber, and Bigsby. And I'm sure there's other notes in there somewhere. This is a letter to the registered voter. Doesn't mean anything. Does not mean anything. Wasn't a law. It was just sort of like, God bless a real estate agent saying, you know, I think they're going to pave your road. Number 1. Oh, wait a minute, where'd this come from? It says 80% of the sales tax proceeds to be used to finance the following streets and roads. Okay, that's logical. And it says 147 McIntyre, Eisenhower, and the remainder of the 80% to be used for the improvement of secondary roads. Well, that leaves 20%. But that wasn't in the original ordinance. And then it says 20% of the county's share of the sales tax proceeds will be used for future capital needs of the county and to encourage economic development. I think we've already used that, haven't we? Does anybody disagree? We haven't used $10 million that wasn't programmed for 2 industrial parks.
The letter was sent December 31st of 2014, and the election was February 3rd, 2015.
Yeah.
So this was sent out prior to the election.
If it was sent out, I don't know, was it sent out? Anybody see where everybody got, I don't remember.
It says,
getting-
"Dear registered voter."
Well, that doesn't mean anything. This was a
Yeah.
ordinance,
Well,
Doug. This was an
Yeah,
ordinance.
right.
This is a letter. The letter doesn't have any authority at all. There's not even anybody signing the letter.
yeah, they all signed it.
Oh, yeah, right
Signed
here.
it all on
Holland,
the back. Yeah, all
Reverend
commissioners signed.
But where does it say
I took it
ordinance?
as that's what was going to be used.
But it's not an ordinance.
It's not an
No,
ordinance.
it's not,
nothing.
but it was 3 commissioners saying this is how we want to spend that sales tax money.
Okay, where is that in the election? Now, that comes along next, and everybody's saying, well, that's the governing authority. It doesn't say about 20% here. It has nothing to do with 80%, 20%. It says, shall Leavenworth County, Kansas be authorized to continue a 1% countywide retailer sales tax, the sales tax, the proceeds of which shall be used only to finance capital improvements, infrastructure, facilities, the purchase of equipment, debt reduction, economic development, and projects the county and the cities within the county, collectively, the project. Nothing in there does it say 20% or 80%. Only the ordinance says that. And we talk about going by the law. To me, this was a governmental law passed by the county commission.
Would.
So what I'm trying to do is get the secondary roads we're through with, I guess we'll let somebody will come along. You know, Lansing wants an industrial park. Baser, I don't think they want an industrial park, but they want some help in some areas. But I know Lansing would like an industrial park. Are we going to help them with an industrial park? We shouldn't have helped the other two, but the system did. It allowed it. Now I'm trying to come up with a resolution, and it's basically, and you should have got a copy. I had left you a copy. And where it talks about what was passed, what was said, all this and that. Another board order saying, yeah, we'll okay the 20%. That shouldn't have been okay in the first place. And we got people out there saying, well, okay. Somewhere you got to quit saying, well, okay. Keep government simple as can be. So I would like to come up with a board order to lock in what we've done and to go after the first 5 or 5.5 million or 8 million, ever what it is, of the sales tax to promote for this program to go ahead. You know, I can think of a lot of roads. The lady out here that was in contact with Clyde Graver, God bless his heart, and now I'm her contact. She's out there on, what is it, Gilman Road, and all that dust and all that traffic going to the landfill. So that is what I had this drawn up for. We're estimating 97 million now, and I think that's changed. You know, everybody says, well, where's he get those figures? Well, it's given to me by the clerk. Again, I'll repeat, 97 million. Tonganoxie, 15 million. Linwood, we got to do something better about that. They get 694,000. Leavenworth gets 51 million. Lansing gets 30 million. Easton gets 252,000 roughly. And Baser gets 22 million. They've got their own programs that I don't see that they need any more economic development funds from the county. I want the county funds to go to the county. And if the system doesn't want it, that's all right. I got a hard surface road coming, so, and I can't do anything about it. But I would like to see us lock in the first money and get this program started for next year. Get it out for bids. Let's get 25 miles of road bid on that we know we can pay for without, because these are construction people. It's simple. We don't have to meet with cities to, you know, coordinate our meeting dates. You just put out a program and bring in about 6 contractors. They'll be there on that day because they want to bid on these programs. So.
To clarify, to construct for next year, per the layout that's provided, it would have to begin this year. Right. Our program we'd need to make sure that we're solid on our program, you know, make sure that you enjoy the resolution and how it's written. If there's any comments for us to address and come back to present, that would be kind of our next step. Am I correct,
Does
Mark?
the board want them to get hard on that contract so we can do a contract for next year?
The next step would be to finalize this resolution.
Yeah.
Clarify any points that the board had today, bring it back to a regular meeting
Right.
for your consideration. That'd be the next step.
But the following step, and I like to be a few steps ahead.
Right.
You know?
All right, that's how we got in this shape. We were always 2 steps behind.
We can, then from that, we could establish the funding documents that we needed.
It's 8 months and more, 30 days left. I'd like to see a program going on the roads. I'd like to leave something.
We can,
Not that
I think that's well within reason. That shouldn't be a problem to accomplish that.
Very good. So you'll come back with us, us?
We'll get this resolution finalized. I think there's a couple things we need to clarify in it, but we'll get it finalized. We'll put it on an agenda and bring it back here soon.
We can
I
have,
guess-
I can have that ready by next week, Mark,
I
if we
think
can
we'll
get to
probably
it.
need 2 weeks.
We'll be here.
I guess my next question, is there anybody that has a short statement from the audience that they think about the program?
My only concern about that is you three set up there and you pass this resolution, and you get started on these roads. Next year, we're gonna have 2 new commissioners up there that may come in with their own ideas and tell them to stop. We're not doing that.
That's
We're going
life.
another direction.
That's life.
That's what I say. Consistency with you guys can be one thing, but when we get new people involved, their ideas out here in left field someplace. We already say, we don't care what prior commissioners voted to do, because we're the new commissioners and we're gonna do something different.
I thought about bringing up the airport.
The thing I see about her thing on doing these chip seal roads. A lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people about these chip seal roads. I got one in front of my house, I'm not happy with it, been there 22 years, it's a good road. People want chip seal road in front of their house. Most of them, they don't want to have to pay for it. They think that's what we're paying taxes for, that's what this 1% sales tax.
But that's what this
is supposed to
program
do.
does. They don't have to pay for it.
That's, their thing is, if you're gonna chip seal the first 2 layers over that rock, and the county's paying for that, but now I'm a taxpayer, and you're gonna tell me I gotta pay for the 3rd coat of that? No?
No, the way that the program currently is we've removed that. That was kind of what the old one, the 2012 was very ambiguous on when those maintenance cycles would hit and when they would be paid for by the resident. So we just have the one payment, one fee that includes all 3 layers. If you are disconnected from the network, then it would be, the maintenance would be per the resident every 3 to 4 years, depending upon its deterioration. If it is not, if it is connected to the network, it would be eligible for county maintenance, perpetual. So that's very similar to what the commissioners did this, actually, I think it's last year now. It's, yeah, it's, it's April. So last year when they accepted specific segments into the network, it's because they were connected to hard pave.
So, what we're talking about, not designing a road. We're talking about chip sealing a existing road the way it sits. Right?
Correct.
With minimal design.
Right. The things that we would be required to address is if that road has shifted and is no longer in our right-of-way.
Right.
We would need to address that. We do have a few areas that are currently under review for similar instances, but that's part of that review process that we talked about, that it allows us to take a look at where the road currently sits, both vertically and horizontally, to make sure that we're not permanently installing something in the wrong place.
So if a road is deemed to be in the right place, and there's easements on either side, but right now it's a gravel road,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to be required to move easements further back to chip seal that same road, just because we're not designing a road, we're going to
Correct.
chip seal the existing.
That is how this particular program
That's what I
is
understand.
presented.
Clarifying that.
Yes, sir.
But I
So
can't- I
again,
cannot-
within that right-of-way is all those constraints for guidelines of what can actually fit in the right-of-way. So back to those roadway widths of 18 to 20 to 24.
I was concerned with.
Yeah, but I
Bob brought it
can't,
about
we cannot be concerned with the county commissioners in 2038.
I know, because you got no control over them.
You've got no control because the ordinance we passed doesn't mean anything. See? So, does anybody else have any thoughts?
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, Joe, gosh,
We
I've
talked
been.
about his fences. We talked about fences. Because, like Bob said, if you're gonna take and move an easement back, and there's a fence sitting on there, because that's the old easement, who puts the new fence up? And I don't care how old that barbed wire fence up, that guy's got cows in there, it's good enough for him.
You know what I was once told?
Uh-huh.
You put the fence in the easement. So Louis, you moved the fence. I know
Yeah,
you had
that
it
fence is
surveyed.
Where it's supposed to be now.
Yeah.
But if we require the guy to donate 10 more foot of his frontage for easement purposes, well, now his fence is in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So who's gonna move that fence?
We're doing away with that program.
Correct.
That is going away.
Yeah,
So
that
the-
program's going away.
The participatory road program
Yes, Joe, you
previously
said- you said
required
road
them,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
required them to move it. Otherwise, if it's part of a standard road process, they're compensated for it monetarily, or it's within the project guidelines to move it at time of construction.
Joe, yes.
I think Public Works has spelled this out very well. I mean, currently, you have 17 miles of plans getting developed, and then project another 25 miles. I think it's what we need to move forward with the county.
What?
It's what we need to
Yeah.
move forward, to have a plan in place, have sales tax dollars, start funding it. And I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
what we're doing.
Okay. Anybody else?
Works.
Do we have anything else to talk about?
Want a motion to adjourn?
Want a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion. We adjourn.
Second.
Adjourn.
Sounds good.